Alright, so this is a 4.1 review. Now, looking at the grades, they weren't great, so I want to run through some things. Um, the average here is showing 22 out of 28 points, which isn't bad. This is the points distribution, though. So while a good number of people are in this area, there's some lower grades, and so I want to address some things. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this over here. Where is and that over there? All right, because I want to be able to pause when I need to, like now. All right, so this is a question that a lot of people missed, and I actually put a note there: base your answer on the textbook information, because if you Google, okay, there are a lot of things that carbon and oxygen can form, but your textbook said that there were two different compounds: carbon monoxide and carbon dioxide. Okay, please don't Google. All right, read the textbook. That's your homework. Read the textbook. All right, here's another one: true or false? The idea of the atom did not develop until the Renaissance. Right? Now, I am not a history person. I couldn't tell you when the Renaissance was, but I knew it was like after the Middle Ages, right? So we're talking like 1400, 1600 or something. Okay? The idea of the atom began with Democritus, which was 400 BC, before the Common Era. So that was like 2,400 years ago, right? That was a long time ago, and a long time before the Renaissance. So this was a false statement. All right, this one is a fill in the blank. A blank is a substance that cannot be broken down into simpler substances by ordinary chemical means. All right, the answer I put in was element. An element is a substance that cannot be broken down. That sounds right. All right. If you put elements, all right, I give you credit, but an elements, that doesn't sound right. So it should be singular. And someone put atom, and I think I gave them partial credit, because an atom can't be broken down without changing what it is, right? But the best answer here was element. So element is what you should have put. All right, this one, the results kind of confused me. Carbon monoxide has a carbon-oxygen ratio of. So the question is asking you, how many carbon atoms are there compared to the oxygen atoms? It's nothing about mass. It's nothing about weight or heat. It's just atoms. It's carbon monoxide. It's CO. One carbon, one oxygen. So that's a 1-to-1 ratio. A lot of people put like 1.33 to 1. Someone put 12 to 16. They were looking at the masses, but this question was just asking you how many carbon atoms are there compared to the number of oxygen atoms. If it was carbon dioxide, CO2, it would be 1 to 2 because it's CO2. Okay? Y'all, this one, atomos. You look at the textbook, or if you Google, it's either going to tell you atomos means indivisible or uncuttable, right? So I gave you credit if you put uncuttable. I gave you credit if you put indivisible. I think I even gave people credit when they put invisible because I assumed it was a typo. Other people put atoms, and I counted that wrong because the Greek word atomos does not mean atom. It means uncuttable or indivisible. It's the basic unit of chemistry. No, it means uncuttable or indivisible. All right. Here, idea of Democritus was not useful in his day because there was no experimental evidence. I think I gave credit for scientific Logical, no. Microscope, no. NA, non-applicable, non-applicable evidence, no. What? That doesn't even make sense. Non-applicable evidence. Why would non-applicable evidence help support? I don't understand. I assume you meant that you weren't answering, but that was wrong. I counted that wrong. Elements, there was no element evidence to support them. I guess that kind of makes sense. But again, I feel like if you read the textbook, it would have said, no experimental or scientific evidence. Chemical reactions do not involve the transmutation of atoms. Transmutation is the idea of turning like lead into gold, and that doesn't happen. So that's the answer. Separation of atoms, yes. You take carbon dioxide and you split it into carbon and oxygen. That's a separation. Combination, you take hydrogen and oxygen, stick them together to form H2O. That's a combination. Rearrangement, absolutely. Chemicals are atoms and molecules are being rearranged all the time, but not transmuted. John Dalton was a chemist and a school teacher. He was also a Quaker, and he was also colorblind. Dalton's atomic theory was based on the conservation of mass, definite proportions, and multiple proportions. It was not based on the conservation of energy. He wasn't studying energy. He was studying the conservation of mass. This is another one where you've got to read the book. Okay? Dalton proposed his atomic theory in 1808. Your textbook, Chemistry Intermediate, says 1808. So that is the answer you need to give me. Okay? If you look online, if you Google it, it probably told you 1804. Honestly, I don't know which difference is. I believe, because I had to look this up last year, I believe 1804 is when he started his research, and 1808 is when he reported his findings. But the point is, use the textbook, not Google. False. Definitely false. Atoms of one element are not the same as the atoms of a different element. Because if they were, they would all be the same element. Okay? Iron is not the same as oxygen. Chlorine is not the same as francium. They're different elements, and they have different atoms. The law of definite proportions says that atoms combine in whole number ratios. They cannot combine in fractional ratios. You cannot have half a hydrogen atom. You cannot have half a carbon atom or 3/4 of a carbon atom. It's either carbon or it's not. Okay? They can only combine in whole number ratios. All right, this is about transmutation again. Chemical reactions don't transmute anything. They don't change it like lead to gold. All a chemical reaction does is rearrange atoms. That's it. Okay? There's some energy changes, but basically it just rearranges atoms. It may put atoms together. It may take atoms away from each other. It may cause molecules to switch partners. But that's it. It rearranges atoms. It doesn't change what the atoms are. All right. I'm going to point this one out just because, well, atom is the answer I put in. I don't know why this counts as a different answer. So this is what I put in. I don't know why this counts as a different answer. Maybe there's a space or something. But over here, they put a question mark. Okay? And I assume what they're trying to say is, I'm not sure if atoms is the answer, but I think it's the answer, so I'm going to put a question mark. But the question mark changes the spelling, and therefore the Google form is going to count it wrong because it's not thinking. It's just matching. If it matches perfectly, then it's the right answer. If it doesn't match perfectly, it's not the right answer. So type it the way it's supposed to be typed. Spelling counts, grammar counts. Okay, I go through them individually, but the better you spell it, the easier it is for me to grade your work.